So why don't I start with an introduction? So my name is Dr. Shawna Pandya. I am Canadian, so I appreciate that it's very late for many of you or later. So thanks for making the time. So my background is, it honestly depends on the day. For anyone who's a fan of Forrest Gump, I say my life is like a box of chocolates because you never know what you're going to get. So on any given day, I'm a practicing clinician in general practice and rural ER. I am the director of the International Institute of Astronautical Sciences Space Medicine Group. I am also a scientist astronaut candidate with Project Possum and the International Institute of Astronautical Sciences. I teach an operational space medicine course. I teach technology and the future of medicine and exponential thinking and innovation mindsets, which I think will be interesting to some of you. Like many of you, I'm a mentor with several groups of students in the space sector. So I'm currently mentoring two groups to develop high school groups to develop payloads for suborbital flight and parabolic flight. I'm an explorer, an aquanaut, a pilot in training, skydiver, scuba diver, and there's so much more that we could talk about. To figure out, Elon Musk says we are going to build settlements of humans on Mars. Well, settlements implies multiple generations. And there's actually a company out there called Spaceborne who initially proposed sending a pregnant woman to low Earth orbit, inducing her and having the first baby born in space. If anyone here has ever been involved with labor and delivery in some aspect, it is extremely high risk in 1G. So they quickly realized how fraught that was and are now have now pivoted to propose sending cells and embryos to be flown in 0G and study it in a more stepwise fashion. We know that, for example, wasps who were flown and then came back to Earth, male wasps, their offspring had a higher rate of dying off than non-flown wasps. We know that the ocular lens development in zebrafish was negatively impacted. We know that in rats, their neuromuscular development was initially adversely affected, but then that effect disappeared after several months. And so the summary question is, what is the gravity prescription? How much gravity for what duration, at what dose, over what time do we need? And the bottom line is we don't know. We see it in science fiction. We see these kids who grow super tall by virtue of growing up in lower gravity environments, but then they're not able to come back to Earth. That's certainly possible, but a lot of things have to happen before that.
When do you think? How many years do you think you'll see? We're starting to get some answers here, some really good ones.
Sure. So let me give you a real life example. So some of you might remember the 1994 movie Gattaca, wherein humans were genetically engineered, and then there was like this elite upper crust, and they were engineered to be superior and perfect and beautiful and intelligent. Um, and that seems very science fiction. Well, in September of this year, the NASA and its collaborators published something called the Mighty Mouse Experiment. And basically, what the astronauts on the ISS did is they flew genetically engineered mice, mighty mice that were engineered to have increased bone and muscle mass. They were literally these muscular, jacked up mice. And what they found is that those mice lost way less bone and muscle mass than their non-genetically engineered counterparts. And then they introduced a receptor blockade on a pathway that is known to lead to muscle and bone density loss. And when they compared the blockade genetically engineered mice, both flown and non-flown, they found that those mice actually increased muscle mass and bone mass in some cases. So the future is actually not as far off as we think.